Hello, Westchester University. I'm Cierra Gelfand here with a very special guest, Mr. Vernon Odom. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me on this show. I appreciate it very much.
Of course. It's an amazing opportunity to get to sit here and to get to talk to you a little bit today, and really excited.
Very good.
Yeah,
I have a great deal of respect for this university and its people. The students are lovely. So are the professors, most of the ones I know anyway. So I'm very happy to be here and happy to cooperate and make the appearance.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you so much. All right, so let's get right into it. So do you mind telling us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your professional background?
Well, I just retired in January from 42 and a half years at 6 ABC, which is the ABC Disney-owned station in Philadelphia. But of course, our signal goes out all over Delaware, South Jersey, and southeastern Pennsylvania. So it's a broad, it's the fourth largest television market in the United States. So it reaches far and reaches wide. And I was there for 42 and a half years. I came in from working at the ABC affiliate in Atlanta, Georgia, where I worked for many years before I came here. Yeah. And it's been a fantastic experience. This is I like to tell people, this is a real heartland of America. It begins 90 miles outside of Manhattan, and everything's out here, from every ethnic group, every major thing that news covers every day, from politics to crime to agriculture to industry. So it's all been here and laid out right in front of me, and we've had a chance to do a lot of international travel and coverage as well.
Yeah, so talking about, you've done so many different segments across the nation and internationally, like you just said. Has there been any rewarding experience, like your most rewarding experience from all of this?
Well, it's been rewarding in that I've gotten to travel, and I've been to every continent except the Far East, and I was getting paid to do it, not paying to go there on a trip or something like that. So as a working journalist, I was able to see things that a tourist wouldn't normally see when they go to countries like that. So I've gotten insight into people and things like that across the country, and that's very valuable and it's been very rewarding.
Yeah, and I'm absolutely sure of that. And I mean, you said 42 and a half years
at Channel
with
6,
Channel 6. That is incredible. And I also had seen that you were inducted into the Broadcast Pioneers Hall of Fame in 2004.
That's
that correct?
That's correct. And I was their Person of the Year. I was awarded that in November.
Yeah, that
very
is
proud of
incredible.
That. It's a great organization. Well, it's a very good organization. It's grown by leaps and bounds since they honored me back in '04, and it was equally so this time. It's got a large group in the Hall of Fame now. Philadelphia, I don't know whether you know it or not, has been one of the broadcast pioneering cities and TV and radio markets in the world. You've had some tremendous on-air talents here, especially radio is one of them because of the music industry. American Bandstand, which was an old favorite show of people way before your time, started here at Channel 6, as a matter of fact. And you've had tremendous broadcasters working out of here. If you could make it in Philadelphia, that meant you could probably make it in New York or Chicago. And I can give you the list of them. The Jackson 5, Michael Jackson, things like that.
Yeah.
That sort of come out of your era. But all of them got their major boost coming to Philadelphia. A lot of Broadway shows used to start in Philadelphia before they went to Broadway to perfect them and see how crowd reaction was. So this is an incredible town. It always has been. And only because of its Quaker heritage did it give up being the first capital of the United States and things like that. But it's a heck of a town and a fantastic, very diverse place. And I've been very happy and to be here and be so well received by my work here over the years and recognized for the work that I've done here over the years.
Yeah, and that's great. And speaking of the Broadcast Pioneers, I had actually attended the 6 ABC Broadcast Pioneer Symposium a couple weeks ago, and it was really an incredible time. It was just great to network and see the 6 ABC station, and to just know that you spent so long there is just incredible. And going off of that, how do you think working there has helped you grow as a reporter?
Well, again, we had always have had the top ratings in Philadelphia since I came there, and it's given me a free ringside seat to the whole world. As I said, I've been to all over Africa, all over Latin America, all over Europe, covering stories, all over the United States covering stories like that. And it's a tremendous experience. That's why I went to work there. That's why I left Atlanta, because Atlanta wasn't that big a town then. I imagine, I'm sure people get around in Atlanta now, but it was a magnificent experience, and things I never would have been able to afford had I traveled around the world. And see many things: war, peace, hunger, tragedy, everything else. I've gotten to experience that and savor that and watch those things unfold as part of life. That's what a good journalist is supposed to do. And with a good station, I've been fortunate enough to have done a great deal of that.
Yeah, and that's excellent advice. And I think something I wanted to ask you was, you know, being in the comm department here, I mean, we all look up to reporters like you, and this is what we want to do. And I think I want to ask you, do you think there's anything else we, especially as WCU Weekly, should be doing in order to get there and, you know, get our names out there and get part of this broadcast journalism and broadcast media
Well,
industry?
perfect your skills, study hard, perfect your skills, and learn social media. Social media is something that has come along in the last 20 years, but the bulk of my career was spent before that landed on top of us. And took me a long, I was born in 1948, so long before you had those kind of things and the computer capabilities and the satellite technology that you have. It used to cost thousands of dollars to rent a satellite to broadcast a story in from different parts of the world. Now it's only a few dollars. It's relatively cheap. So I've been fortunate enough to come along at a time. I started 68 in radio in 1970 in TV after going to graduate school at Columbia University. And so I've been able to move along with the technology and not too old to adapt to it and things like that. And I go from the time when most news coverage was shot on film and you had 2 hours to when it was processed, and you had 2 hours to think about what you were going to say. And now it's instantaneous from anywhere in the world you want. I mean, you had the terrorist attack the other day in Sri Lanka, and instantly there's pictures of that being broadcast around the world. And the reporter on the scene has got to be up to date and tell as much of the story as accurately as he or she can based on the facts they know at the minute, because facts do change in situations like that, and you have to try to always be honest. And there's nothing wrong with "we're not sure about that, I don't know," or "allegedly this took place," or "apparently," things like that. So you have to be in tune like that. When I first started out, you didn't have those challenges, but I had to adapt to them as the industry moved along.
Sure. And I think that's something else that I wanted to talk to you about is that, you know, I mean, it's a very challenging industry to get into. Again, as communication students here, we hear all the time, you know, broadcasting, that's tough. I mean, what do you think
Well,
about
interesting
that?
enough, with more cable stations and TV and broadcasting outfits around the country doing news, even at a local or very, very elementary level, there are places you can start. All you got to do is go on computer and look for jobs that are open across the state, Maryland, Delaware. There are jobs out there if you go and look for them and are willing to move around and willing to go where the job is, as opposed to, I had a friend one time, she didn't want to go anywhere. She wanted to start out in Philadelphia, and that was, and she was hard-headed, and she never got a start, you know, because she was refusing to make a move anywhere, you know, or she wanted to go right to LA or to New York City.
Yeah.
And most of us didn't start out with that. You have to start in a smaller market where you can make your mistakes and learn and get experience in broadcasting.
Sure. And I think, do you have any piece of advice that you can give?
Just study hard, and again, be up to date on your knowledge and information about, if you're going into news. Now, I can't talk about, I'm not a comedian. Some people think I am, but nevertheless, always acquaint yourself and be up to date on what's going on in the world and in your town and in your country. Be aware and alert about that and know where to get the information if you don't have it. And always follow up and try to be fair, accurate, and honest, and always be willing to pitch in and do a good job at any station where you might get your first job. First job might be frustrating, but that's always the hardest one to get, starting out in broadcasting. But there are jobs out there. All you have to do is go on the computer and look for cable TV or TV jobs. I've talked to a lot of students over the years, and they always say, well, I'm looking for my first job, Mr. Einstein. Then they write me back and say, Mr. Odom, I just got a job in a small town in Indiana. And then they write me back and say, well, I just moved to Rochester, New York, and things like that. So if you're ambitious, you're going to get turned down. You're going to get, they want somebody else. They didn't, but it doesn't mean your career is hopeless. It just means they didn't, it's a very subjective choice in terms of on-the-air talent. I assume that's what you're talking about.
Yes.
And there are plenty of good jobs off the air, behind the camera, producers, writers, photographers. And I know that you have a tremendous photography department here, and those are things you can learn. And everybody doesn't have to be on the air. And in many cases, producers are far more powerful than the reporter or correspondent. Now, the correspondent has a great deal of control because he or she are out there, and they have to tell people what's going on and make it believable. But and try to stick to the facts and be fair, honest, and remember the 5 W's: who, what, when, why, and where. And those are the basic elements of journalism, and from there you branch out to give other details and things like that. So that's my advice. You stay informed, you work hard, and social media is something that landed on my career very late in the game, but it's going to be around for a long time. It's going to be there and moving on from here. So that's something you need. But people your age, your generation, are very familiar with that already. I have 2 children, and they can't believe when I ask them to fix my cell phone or tweet something, but I did. But it's second nature to them because they're in their early 20s, and that's been around since they were born. But I said, how do I do this, and that, So those are the things that are very important.
Yeah, and it's incredible that you talk about the social media, how it came such a long way. I mean, I'm taking a strategic social media course
It's exploded, and not always for the best.
Yeah.
Sometimes the results are not the best.
Yeah.
They've let the genie out of a bottle, and it can be very good in many ways and very destructive in other ways, I find.
And I think before we start to wrap this up, one question I did want to ask you is, did you love it? Did you love what you did?
Yeah, very much so, sure. I did it I was 50 years total between Atlanta here, and yeah, absolutely. It has been a very good business, and it can still be very rewarding. Demands a lot of energy and stamina and perseverance. Sometimes you stand outside a place for 5 hours in the rain waiting to get information on a story. It can be very frustrating. It's not always glamorous, and lunch is not always served at gourmet style and things like that. But it can be very rewarding, and it can be very, very distressing and unrewarding too. So you have to be prepared to persevere. Sure. I counseled one young lady whose parents knew my wife a few years ago, and she lasted 3 months. And I knew when I talked to her that was going to be it, because she didn't have the chops to persevere through all the challenges and landmines that are out there you have to go through.
Yeah.
And she lasted 3 months. Now, she's a smart young lady.
Yeah.
But I knew from just talking to her, her expectations were far different from what the reality is.
Okay.
And she figured that out after about 3 months.
Yeah.
And she went on to something else. And I haven't seen her parents, but that's true. So that's my advice there. And if it doesn't work out, believe. And there are going to be days it's going to rain all over you. It's going to be terrible, and you're going to say, "Man, I want to go home. This is terrible." Equipment breakdowns, things like that. But you have to be prepared to persevere through that and stick it out and work through those things, or if not, go do something else. There's no honor in trying another profession.
Yeah.
And deciding this is not for you.
Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right. And your advice, I know, is something I'm going to take with me throughout the rest of my college career, and as I get into the professional world too. And I think a lot of us as well, a lot of our viewers and our WC Weekly team are going to take that too. But Mr. Odom, thank you so much for coming in again with us today. It was really an honor to talk to someone like a role model like you, someone that Philadelphia has looked up to for a long time.
My pleasure. I'm glad you invited me. If you need more, you can invite me back.
Yeah, of course. And we do just want to take the time to congratulate you on all your amazing accomplishments that you've done.
Thank you. Yeah. You're very kind. Thank you very much.
Of course.